Hi guys, Dave Pensioner, Philippine Bible Ministry. Excuse me while I pause for the cause. Look at that. I don't want anybody to get upset because of my political values. Hang on. I dropped my phone. Um, so someone called me a maverick, a pastor called me a maverick the other day, and funny as it is, he doesn't know me from Adam. It was because of like a 30-second conversation. What I said something. Oh, you're just a maverick then, huh? And to be honest with you, I could have taken a half an hour and tried to open everything up to him, but I just felt this little thing inside of me that said, this is not the time and place to talk to this man, because this man is steeped up in his stuff, and he is not going to listen to you. And that's good that I did that. I did take the coffee in the cup, and I told him, well, maybe, like, oh, you know, but what does it mean to be a maverick? Maverick is a person who doesn't follow the rules. It doesn't follow the general outlines that other people have and kind of goes off on his own, like you don't call it rebel. It's kind of like a rebel. They're not really rebelling against anything per se. But they don't really follow the norms and the things that other people do. So I am a maverick in that way. And I guess a maverick also is someone that doesn't listen to authority, right? So I guess I should probably hang on. Let's look it up. Don't be just talking out of your hat. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, a maverick is an unorthodox or independent-minded person. All right, I am a maverick. What else does it say? And what else does it say? Also says an unbranded calf, an unorthodox. You know what? Then I am a maverick. The man actually used named after a man named Samuel Maverick, a Texas rancher who didn't brand his cattle. You know what? Gosh darn it, that's awesome. You know what? I'm sorry, Pastor Guy who gave me the coffee. I am a Maverick. I always thought Maverick was like, well, I think of that show Maverick, James Garner, and I forgot the other guy. I can picture him, but I know him, but I can't remember. Um, and they were like gamblers, and they just did what they wanted, and they lived by their wits. But it's kind of cool. So it's named after a man who didn't brand his cattle. Man, this is awesome. I thought this was going to be something else. Now that I've looked it up, my head is spinning with all kinds of cool ideas. Because you know how I feel about churchiosity, right? And that is, my friend, branding the cattle. What am I talking about? Well, we have these doctrines, and we have this Nicene Creed, and we have this, what's the other one called? Catechism, and we have this class you have to go through, and you have to be baptized. Some people say you have to be baptized in our church. Most evangelicals, most Christians, Reformed, they don't say that. You've been baptized, you're good. You yeah, but there's a branding that takes effect, huh? As a matter of fact, kind of interesting. I'm not going to get it. I don't want to stir you up too much. But when it talks about something being branded on your forehead, right? That's usually hyperbole, or it's usually a picture of something. It means it's something you think on, right? I think about Ezekiel. There's a part in Ezekiel, the mark, but it's not the mark you're thinking of, and that's not the one I'm going to talk about. Right? I talk about that enough. That is what it is. Secondary doctrines, by the way. So he's getting ready to destroy these people, the Jews, by the way, because they were rebellious again, and he sends this angel out to mark God's people on the forehead. It's not an actual mark, right? So he's branding them as believers, right? So that's just what comes to mind when I think about branding, and then he kills all the other ones. It says the angel killed him, but it's actually, again, hyperbole of prophecy. It's not always literal, my dispensational friends. Um, it's talking about when they were destroyed, and many were killed. Judgment of God and stuff, which already happened. But anyway, I don't know why that came up, but it's a cool historical thing, cool biblical thing when you look it up. And what does a mark mean? It usually means something in your heart and mind. Your right hand means your power, your strength. your male member is also cut, branded, because that's the power that a man has. Blah blah blah. I don't mean to go into all this. I really just want to talk about being a maverick and not branding your cattle. So I don't really have any cattle, because I'm trying to make disciples of Jesus, right? Um, and I want Him to brand people. So I don't belong to a denomination, and that's why the man said you're a maverick. And at the end of the day, he was actually 100% correct. And now I feel I kind of regret that part about not talking to him. I wish I would have said, if I'd have known that word a little better, just taking it off a TV show or what I thought it meant. I thought it meant like a rebel kind of. I want to talk about that too for a second. But now that I realize it was just talking about someone who's unorthodox, well then I'm unorthodox because I follow Jesus. The man was pretty unorthodox if you know anything about him, right? In this world you'll have tribulation. The world will hate you because it hated me first. Why did it hate him? Well, part of it is because we're not like them. We're not supposed to be. Many are. That's my churchiosity, or that's my worldly church talk that I talk about all the time. You watch a person say, how would you know if you didn't see them go to church, or they didn't tell you they were a Christian, or they didn't tell you that they went to church, would you ever think they're a Christian by the way they talk, by the way they act, by the way they treat other people, by the way they give of themselves, which is that's the main way you can tell a person's a Christian is not what they say, but how they live their lives. Right? That's the branding the Lord puts on them. Anyway, so I am a maverick, and so I am unorthodox, and so why am I unorthodox? Because I believe that we have 2,000 years of churchiosity, we have 2,000 years of tradition, and people think that's God. Well, like my friend said, well, I can only commune with God in church. Basically, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's what he said. He didn't say he couldn't talk to him, but communing means it's deeper than talking to him. When you take communion, and he says, my body's my, he's talking about abiding with, right? In other words, being in the presence of, listening to, right? Not just talking to. I told somebody also 2 years ago, as I was working all this out, I was sharing it with a close friend of mine. She's been a Christian. She's a believer as far as I know, but she's been a Christian, a churchy person for since she says I don't even know when I got saved because I've been a Christian since I could walk. All I remember is going to church, and she's got all these members going back to the 1600s or whatever that were ministers, So she is branded, right? And she said, God, I never heard of anybody just stopping and communing with God, and spending time listening to Him, just like spending time. I said, huh, you know. But anyway, being a maverick is a good thing. Being unorthodox is a good thing because you look at what's around you, and then you look at what could be, or what should be. As John Kennedy said, don't look about things as they are, and that's what most of us do. That's what I do. That's what you do. That's what we do. And that's what my church friends do. Most of them, they just look at the church. Well, this is where it happens. This is what I do. I go to church. I want to pick a church that will last. I want to pick this. I want to, has good programs. And look into the worldly side instead of or the numbers. Look at this must be good because there's something maybe no, I don't think it is good. I talk about that all the time. But being a maverick, being an orthodox, pulling your eyes out of a dark hole and then cleaning them out and asking the Lord to show you His truths, and then reading your scripture, and then it says grow up. There's a time when you grow up, put away childish things. It says you have need of a teacher, but now you no longer need a teacher. You need to teach people. And my friend, that's not just for the guy standing up there in the pulpit. That's for all of us. Oh, I'm not a teacher. I don't have the gift of teaching. You're alive, you're a living person, and you do things, and whatever you do, people see, and you're teaching. Have you live a life, you're teaching. So being maverick is a good thing. And then, real briefly, I just want to talk about being a rebel, because this is what I thought the video was going to be titled until I looked up the word maverick, and I'm so glad I did. Mr. Maverick, he did things his way, because I don't want to do. I don't want to be. So let's say this before we move on to rebel. I don't want to be a maverick my way. I did it my way. I used to love that song because I like old stuff. Dean Martin's my favorite, though, not Frank Sinatra. His voice is more in tune with mine, I guess, and I just like. But I used to love that song. And once I became saved, and once I started realizing that the flesh is a terrible thing, and that we have to do it His way, I realized that's a really bad song. It's a pride song. That you want to say pride, just play that song, and then whoever it is, whatever they do, I'm doing it my way. I'm a maverick, and I don't want to do this because I'm an orthodox. That's not the point. I actually had somebody tell me that once. I think it was a tech sergeant when I was in the Air Force. I was a very young man, 19, 20, 21. And he says, son, you just have to do what everybody else does. I'll do this because nobody else does it. And he was proud of his maverickness. I'm not proud of my maverickness. I'm sad about it. Why? I'm sad that more people aren't like that. I'm sad that too many people are stuck up in that, and they don't. That's why we haven't taken the world for Christ, guys. Because people aren't following the Lord. They're following their denomination or and they follow it so much that's why no one wants to watch me. Not only will the world hate you, but when you step out, just ask John Wesley how that worked out. When you step out, people attack. They tried to kill him, and all he was doing was preaching his pure gospel. That's all. And he was calling them out. Oh, you're in church, you're a sinner. Oh, what are you talking about? We are the good people. We're in church. You can't be talking that way to us. That's those filthy beggars. Don't you know they're filthy beggars because God hates them? Blah, blah, blah. Same old story, all the way back to Jesus' day. Well, they must be bad. Look, they're blind. Why, who sinned? Why are they poor? Because they're bad people. I have that too. I think that way about homeless people. And I'm probably wrong a lot of times. So anyway, orthodoxy, right? And then, but then being a rebel, that's what I originally wanted to talk about, being a rebel, because it came to my mind that Mavericks are probably considered rebels. And they're not necessarily rebels, because I think a rebel is someone who, so there's an old movie called Rebel Without a Cause, John Steinbeck, amazing John Steinbeck authored a book. Um, I'm not going to go into the story, but see, I think it was Stein. Wait a minute, maybe I'm thinking of the other movie that James Dean was in. Maybe he didn't write that. I'm sorry. He wrote the other one, East of Eden. I don't know about Rebel Without a Cause. Who wrote that? I'm not going to look it up because it doesn't matter. The point of the matter is he was a young teenager, so he was a rebel. Because I don't know if you notice this, but teenagers often rebel, and some of them this continues on for years. And what it means is they don't give a dang. They're just going to do what they want. That's the way I see a rebel. A rebel just does whatever they want. And they have to have something. Usually it's your parents. You fight against the authority of your parents for a minute. Most people get over it and then they reconcile. Most people, it's not that extreme. But I am a rebel with a cause. And that's what I want to say. I'm a rebel with a cause, but I'm not. Rebellion is not a bad thing when you're doing it in the Lord's way. Jesus was a rebel. A lot of people say that. The hippies, when the hippies got saved back in the 70s, it was 70s, and they would say, well, Jesus was the ultimate rebel, dude. Jesus was the dude, because he went against the authority and da 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 da. And you only do that when the authority's wrong, because it also says you should listen, obey the magistrates and the rulers, right? But you rebel against evil. I rebel against what I call Churchiosity because I see it as a darkness upon the eyes of the church that they can't see that they should be walking and discipled by Him, not by some person in a pulpit. They can't see that they should be taking this world for Christ, not, I don't want to say, other activities that they do. And a lot of those activities are good activities. But I rebel against the idea, many of their ideas, as you hear me say oftentimes. So I think it's okay to be a rebel as long as you're a rebel in Christ, right? Because the world will hate you, and you're rebelling against the world. You're rebelling against the world, the flesh, and the devil, even if they appear in church, in the government, in social, in your town, in your neighbor, whoever it is. You're rebelling against that in them. You're not rebelling against them per se. So that's all I got to say about that, guys. God bless you guys. That's all for now.